Raymond Fritzinger Klingerman.
And you served in the United States Navy,
Yes.
and were you drafted into the military, or did you join?
No, I enlisted
Oh, you enlisted.
as an aviation cadet.
Okay. And what year was that, Ray? What year was that?
That was in 1942.
1942. As you were growing up, you were born in what's the state and the town and the state that you were born in?
I was born in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County.
And your father and your father's name
Clyde Wilkinson Klingerman.
and your mom.
And my mom was Ethel Fritzinger Klingerman.
And
Well,
go ahead, Ray.
now her maiden name was Pettit,
Pettit.
P-E-T-I-T.
And you grew up in the Pennsylvania area and stayed there all your life until you entered into the military?
Right.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I've had two brothers. One is still alive. He was born in October 42. And
What was his name?
Alvin
Elvin Klingerman?
Klingerman.
And your other brother, he passed away?
Yes.
And what was his name?
Jerry. He was born Fritzinger, but he took the name of Jerry.
Okay. And when was he born? Was he the youngest, the oldest?
No, he was older. He was born in I guess it was in 42.
42. Was either of them in the military? Did they join the military?
Both of them.
Okay. Well, and what branch of the service were they in?
Well, one was in the amphibious engineers, and my older brother was staff sergeant
In the Army? In the Army? And who was that was in the Army?
Jerry
Oh, Jerry? Okay.
Clyde.
And when you joined the military, were you joining because you wanted to, or was that interesting to you, the naval aviation field?
Yes.
Okay, and that was something.
I wanted to become a pilot.
Oh, okay. You want to be a pilot all your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into some questions, Jerry and Raymond, and just tell us any story you want. How broad it goes or how little it goes, but we want to hear from the World War II pilots what they did, how they conducted themselves in the military, and what they saw, because this is a history project for the future, for the kids. And so, Ray, is there any photographs that you would like to talk about? Any photographs relating to your service in the military?
Well, my military life started in 42 when I enlisted and became an aviation cadet. And then I received my wings when I graduated as a naval pilot,
Where was that at?
Pensacola.
You were in Pensacola, Florida, for your naval training. And what did you train in, Ray?
I trained, my first plane I trained as a Piper Cub in Bethany, West Virginia. And we weren't put on active duty in that. And then I was sworn into the Navy when I got my wings. And that was back in 42.
Okay. And after training, after you got your wings, where were you assigned to?
I was originally assigned to a VF squadron, and I was supposed to go to well, as a fighter pilot at Floyd Bennett Field, and got my leave, and then they canceled that out, and I was supposed to go to assigned to Commander Caldwell as a fighter pilot to receive night flying training.
Okay, so that was after Pensacola. You went to further training?
To what?
To further training?
Yeah,
Okay, and where was that at?
that was night fighter training.
Night fighter training?
Yes,
And,
we would only fly at night.
okay, and where was that training at?
That was originally started in Charleston, Rhode Island, and then they drafted me to go over to European theater as a night fighter, and that was at Corsica.
In
And
France?
I lived with the Army and flew as a night fighter in training.
Now, what was the difference between night fighting and at night, and the difference from flying during the day? I mean, it's gotta be like night and day, but,
Night and day. The difference was you would be under the control of a CIC, Combat Information Center, and they would vector you over to a plane that was shown on my radar as just a dot and two dashes. And they, after that, why you narrowed it into this close range, that you had a visual contact with the enemy, and from there, then on you honed in on it until you had a visual from the exhaust, and then you could fire on it because it was in your sight.
so you had to rely on the plane's exhaust in order to find these other planes during the night?
Yeah.
It wasn't like today where they have all this extravagant
Well,
radar and all of these things that
they
can help.
had all radar operated then. It was more sophisticated.
And I'm sure you got into a lot of incidents, dogfights.
No,
you
never
didn't
got
get
into a
into
dogfight.
No? How about, tell us a little
It was
bit.
either shoot the plane down
Oh, okay.
or you could make contact with them.
Okay. And I see you got the Navy Cross.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we were launched through luck. We flew from Bennington and were supposed to pick up our ship, and they
So, so you flew from the USS Bennington,
Yeah,
and where was your point that you were going to? Where were they sending you to?
they were sending me over to Europe to go aboard the Cassid Bay, which was on an oil tanker hull. And from then on, I was under the control of VF-74 night fighter.
And what year was that?
That was 1942.
And so you flew off the, you were doing all night flights, and
Yeah.
how was that?
Well, it was what I was trained to do. And
And how many missions did you fly?
missions,
Yeah, I mean going out. And, you recall?
I never kept count of them.
Oh, were you ever injured?
No,
No. Were you ever taken as a prisoner of war? Or,
no.
and I'm sure some of your buddies that were flying with you were
Well,
they,
he either made contact with the, they call them bogies, and, or else you just didn't get them. You couldn't make contact with them, and so you would land back at the, we were based with the Army B-25 outfit in Corsica, and we flew from there.
now, from going from France over to the Pacific, when were you ordered to go over there?
My orders were to go back to United States proper, and I became a trainee, well, not a trainee there, but at Charleston, Rhode Island, which is our home port, and it was up to them to pursue my training till I had orders to go back out in the Pacific.
And so you flew out into the Pacific. Once you got your orders, you went to the Pacific.
We got in a pool of night fighters, and they put 8 aboard the big carriers, and they would continue your training. You're always training more, and that was VF-74
And
with,
then we're all night fighters on VF-74.
yeah, but they were Bennington night fighters now,
Okay. And
and they were,
now, how was it flying out there in the Pacific? I mean,
same thing.
did you carry any bombs with you? To drop any bombs, or
No.
just
We had rockets
rockets?
that we would fire if we had to, but it was mostly 50 caliber machine guns.
That you utilized on the plane. Do you remember any of the people in your unit? Do you keep in touch with them? Or do they keep in touch with
Well,
you?
every year we had a squadron reunion, Bennington, and we would meet people that had been aboard the Bennington, and we only had a close contact with people that were served with us on the Cassid Bay.
Now, where did they have these reunions? Where were these reunions at?
Pardon?
The reunions that you had. You just got together and had these reunions every year?
Yeah,
Where'd you have them?
well, wherever they decide to have them, mostly at Norfolk or an air base.
Now, do you still have contact with any of the?
Up until I became hospitalized because of training, hard of hearing and so forth.
Now, what was your everyday life like though, as a pilot?
Well, we had a, more or less we were on our own over at Corsica. And everyday life you almost had, well, you had free time during the day because we only flew at night.
So what'd you do during the day? Would they have like USO shops or, shows or?
We had USO shows, we had sightseeing mainly in Corsica.
Did you ever pull any pranks on while you were in the service? Jokes, pranks on your fellow?
I don't understand.
No, I didn't know if maybe there was pranks that you ever pulled on each other, or jokes,
Oh,
joking around.
well, we always did that at our reunions, and
They're pretty serious while you were in.
yeah.
No fooling around. Did you come home on leave at any time, and then go back, or?
Well, while I was on leave, I was more or less accepted it. It was an odd thing. While I was on leave, Pearl Harbor happened, and we had a retired Navy man who lived with us and had decided to he wasn't active in the Navy, but he was, when Pearl Harbor happened, and he took a heart attack and died the night of day of Pearl Harbor.
And that's somebody that lived with you, your family in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Now, what did you do? What do you remember about that day when Pearl Harbor got bombed? Were you ordered to return back to the base, or?
Well, no, we were in the reserve, Naval Reserve, and our life then would be on weekends that we fly as practice and flying at night.
Now, do you remember when the United States went and ended the World War with
Yeah.
Japan? They relating to VE Day or VJ Day. Do you remember them days?
Not really.
So you were out in the Navy, but in the reserves
Yeah.
during that time. Now, you spent in the Navy how many years? From what year to what year?
Well, I enlisted in 1942, August of 42, and that's when the Navy placed me on active duty.
And then when did you end your active duty and go into the reserves? What year?
42, 1942.
You went in, but when did you come out of active duty?
Well, I was never on active duty except as a reservist.
Okay. Now, when did you come back from the war? Flying over in Europe and
Well, I went into a squadron at Willow Grove, which is my home field, and we were more or less flight training as we went.
Ray,
It was a
the Navy Cross. How did you get it?
well, it was awarded to me. I I was flying off the Bennington, off the Cassid Bay. I was assigned to the Cassid Bay, which was a Jeep carrier, and they got an alert that there were enemy planes in the vicinity, so they wanted to launch all the night fighters. Each carrier carried 8 night fighters, and they wanted to launch them and so they'd have double the amount of planes available at night in case they had a launch. So they tried to siphon the gas out of my plane, which was one of the 4 that they launched to go over to Cassid Bay, and they couldn't siphon the gas, get it out, so they took the tank off. As a result, when we contacted the bogies, they I was the fastest one of the 4 planes, so I made a visual contact and shot 3 planes in one flight, and they awarded the Navy Cross for doing that.
I see a lot of other things that besides the Navy Cross, the Distinguished Flying Cross. You got 4 Air Medals, the National Defense, the Victory Medals, and that's some history there, you know.
Yeah.
And but now I see that you retired. Did you retire from the Navy Reserves?
No, I retired from the reserve.
Okay, and that was in what, 1960? Was that in the 63?
No, 1963.
Okay, and I see the highest rank was commander.
Right.
And do you recall anything else, Ray, that you'd like to share?
Well, when I retired as a commander, I didn't even know I got the Navy Cross until it was awarded to me.
Is there anybody that you met along the way, as far as when you were in the Navy, that we would have heard about? Anybody important?
Well, they were all important. They were co-pilots, actually. Hey,
Now, when you flew, how many people were in the plane?
one.
Just you?
And that was one reason why I had the election to become a fighter pilot or become a Marine fighter pilot.
You chose fighter pilot?
And I chose fighter pilot because I didn't want to take the responsibility of anybody else in the plane except myself. And with my ability, I was able to keep that status with me.
Now, as far as flying and taking off of the ship, the carrier, and landing, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I had one episode of a night fighter when I was coming around to land, and you had a radio altimeter and a pressure altimeter, which gave you your height above the water. And your flight pattern was go down along the carrier, pick up the lights of the carrier, which were just deck lights, and as you came around to come up alongside the we'll say alongside the carrier, which was maybe 300 feet away, why the signal officer was giving me a cut, which was mandatory to cut my engine and land. And I kept fighting his directions because I thought I was on the opposite side of the carrier. And because I had lost my orientation. And so till I got back oriented, why I was way over on the other side of the carrier where I thought I was. And finally, I took the cut, whether they gave it to me or not, because I said that I felt I could land on the deck, and which I did, but I was landing in a catwalk, almost. And I had a safe landing, though it didn't smash the plane up. And
Did you get into any close incidents where you almost crashed a plane or on the deck trying to land?
I didn't crash any plane on the deck, except I had two accidents. One was where I had to land wheels up. That was back when I was flying out of Rhode Island, and then again I couldn't get my wheels down, and they sent a safety pilot up to check my plane out, and they agreed that the wheels were down and locked, and they weren't. And when the plane landed, the left landing gear collapsed under me, and I ground to a halt, but it smashed the plane, the landing gear and everything, but otherwise it didn't matter. We had an experienced pilot that landed and was on the ground and observing my landings, and one of my landings plus other people that were qualifying for landing, and he finally decided that my landing gear was down and locked, and he gave me the cut, and when I cut my engine way, the downdraft collapsed the wheel.
Now, flying off the USS Bennington, is there any stories living on that? Because you lived on that ship, right? That carrier?
Yeah.
And how was it living on that carrier?
Well, my duties were only to fly at night, so I had a lot of free time with only flying at night.
Now, did you dock anywhere? I mean, you were out in the Pacific, but I'm saying, was there any times that you went and docked and
No.
always out to sea? Ray, I just want to thank you for allowing me to interview you, get some history from you as a World War II naval pilot, and to thank you very much for your service.
Well, you're welcome, I'm sure. Thank you for the interview.
Oh, thank you.